All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Sheikh? Good to see you.
Alhamdulillah, better seeing you.
Hayyakallah. We were talking earlier, and you're Shaykh Fazaga for the audience. We were talking earlier about how you were. I was a little delayed coming in, and I guess in the meantime you were doing a run.
I was.
MashaAllah. How far did you run?
I didn't run far, but it was 26 degrees when I was running.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
Shorts and short sleeves, and I said, man, I'm just going to give this a try. And I did 2 miles, mile and a half maybe in 20 minutes, and it was a really good run.
You said to yourself, Memphis just had an ice storm. I need to get some exercise in.
I wasn't worried about the ice storm. I was looking at myself, and I was getting a little bit, too well-rounded.
Okay.
And I said, this has got to stop. So that was the motive. And I heard that you burn more calories if you run in the cold. I said, well, I'm going to weigh myself before and after.
Oh, interesting. I actually didn't know that. Did you when you were running, was the ice frozen? The floor was it frozen where you were running?
It was not. But what was interesting is that you would hear a lot of cracking in the trees.
Oh, wow.
And that was the ice melting. And that was really, really interesting. And just hearing the cracking of the ice and then the falling of the ice, that was really nice.
Did you lose electricity in the last 2 weeks?
We did, alhamdulillah. It wasn't 2 weeks. We lost electricity for 1 night.
Oh, subhanallah.
Yes, but alhamdulillah, we at least in our area, power is restored. I know that some of our community members are still without power.
Did you, in your case, what did you do with the heat?
So what I did is I gathered the kids around me. We all shared one blanket.
No way.
I was telling them stories. I was just like going back to our days in East Africa. Mm-hmm. And I was telling my boys, look, this was like the daily thing. We did not have electricity at night, and we literally went to bed telling stories, jokes, and singing. So I said, let me tell you how we did it. So I had a bucket, and I started singing, and they immediately said, can we skip this part? So that was not fun. But then I started with the stories, and that was really, really nice. It was very captivating. Wife was there. She pretended she was not listening, but I know that she was listening, and that was really nice.
MashaAllah. But it's still cold though. How'd you fall asleep?
So we continued to talk, and it was 58 degrees by the time that, like inside, indoors 58. That's like very cold if you're used to 73, 74. But alhamdulillah, we managed. And I think that part of also what took place is I was just like looking at this and say, man, we are so blessed, alhamdulillah. And sometimes we don't even realize how blessed we are. Because despite the fact that it was cold, we had options. Could have gone to a hotel. Many, different community members called and they said, we have power. Why don't you guys come and sleep, sleep the night, spend the night over. And it was really nice. We had blankets upon blankets, alhamdulillah. So I just kept thinking about, Syrian refugees. I kept about homeless people in the city of Memphis. I said, man, we are really, really blessed. And sometimes we don't even notice how blessed we are. So last night, man, I remember one of the boys said, Baba, he said, I am cold. And I just immediately went and I just got an extra blanket. And the fact that, he said he was cold, and I think what he meant is it's not warm enough. And, alhamdulillah, we still had, an extra blanket that we were able to put on top of what we had. I was just thinking about, what about all the fathers who hear their kids cry because it's really cold and they don't have that extra blanket to bring to them.
What part of, you said East Africa is where you're from? Which country?
So I was born in Eritrea in East Africa, and I grew up in the Sudan. Mm-hmm. Both countries are located in Northeast Africa.
Mm-hmm. So you're from Sudan originally?
I'm from Eritrea originally, and I grew up in the Sudan.
Okay, mashallah. When did you come to the U.S.?
Long time. 87. So I came here in 87.
MashaAllah. What brought you here? Was it for education or work? Or?
We came here as refugees. So what happened is that there was a civil war that was going on in Eritrea, between Eritrea and Ethiopia. So we were, we registered with the United Nations. And the United Nations, they have a program, a resettlement program, That's an opportunity for the extreme few. Only 1% of refugees actually get resettled
Wow.
in different places. So different countries, they say we will take a certain number of refugees. I think the US takes about 60,000 a year. The program started back in the 1940s after World War II, or I like to call it Western War II. Western War II. And a lot of Europeans were displaced. So the United Nations, they set the UNHCR, High Commission of Refugees. And the idea was to resettle the refugees in Europe as a result of the war. And the program just continued. And of course, the biggest resettlement countries in the world, believe it or not, are not the US, it's not Australia, it's not Europe. Even though when you watch the news, this is the impression that you get. But the biggest countries are Pakistan, Iran, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, Kenya, Sudan. That's where this big resettlement is taking place.
What about the Khalij, though?
Very few. Maybe I know that because of the geographical location of Yemen. See, now we're talking about refugees. We're not talking about immigrants. We're not talking about workforce. We're talking about people who moved to a neighboring country because the situation in their own countries was not safe. So you had a lot of Afghans that went either to Pakistan or they went to Iran, depending on where they were. You had a lot of Iraqis that went to Syria, a lot of Palestinians that went to Syria. And now you have a lot of Syrians that go to Turkey.
Right.
You had a lot of Iraqis and Syrians and Palestinians going to Jordan and so on.
I gotcha. So you came in 1987. Where did you guys resettle to? Which state?
We settled in California.
Oh, mashallah.
So that's where we were. So my sister was here before we did. And back then they had a program called Family Reunion, which, through her, we were able to apply to join, to have a family reunion here. And back then it was easy. So we did join my sister here back in 87.
Nice. Which part of California?
Southern California.
Okay. And then you somehow ended up in Memphis.
Yeah, there was a lot. It was a long journey. In between, there was Virginia, Philadelphia, Texas, Atlanta, and so on.
Where were you when your story with the your current case with the FBI? Where were you when that story starts?
I was in Irvine, Irvine, California. I was the imam at the Orange County Islamic Foundation. And back then, we lived in the city of Huntington Beach. So that's where I was, and that's what I was doing. And also, I was working at Access California Family Services as a therapist, training therapist back then.
Okay, so you were an imam, and all of a sudden, for some reason, the intelligence apparatus of this country had an interest in you. Why was that?
I mean, right now, looking back, I think they did not have a personal interest in me. I was just a person that fit the profile.
Okay.
A Muslim male. And like Brother Hussam Ailoush from CARE would say, the FBI developed a narrative. And that is, there is local Muslim terrorists. And let's go and fish them out. And if you cannot find them, create them. So I believe that's what was happening.
So was there a local crime that was committed and they were looking for someone with a profile like yours? What happened that they had to come and investigate you?
No, it's been 15 years. Not a single arrest, indictment has been brought up against any of our community members. Literally, it was all about, you had a lot of activism that was going on in our area. The different MSAs were absolutely beautifully active. In our own masajid, we were politically and socially involved. And somehow an agent speaking to a group of Orange County residents is quoted in the paper that the FBI is keeping a close eye and surveilling the Muslim community in Southern California. We read the news and we said, wait a minute. We thought we and the FBI are partners in this. We reached out to the FBI and we said, look, what is going on? And, we had a community hall meeting, and I think that's when it all just really didn't go well.
So there was no instance of a crime or something that happened. It was just you guys saw a newspaper article that said you're being watched, right? And then you just wanted to find out why you were being watched.
The FBI suggested that we have a town hall meeting to address the community and, I guess, calm down the concerns of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Tidwell, representing the FBI, comes to the town hall meeting. It was in the masjid, the Irvine Masjid, ICOI, Islamic Center of Irvine. And we met there with the community. And I remember I had the paper with me, and I read a direct quote from the agent. The agent is saying that we are under surveillance. And he was speaking, that this is not the case. And we pressed him, and the guy was, I think to put it nicely, he was talking too much and saying very little.
Okay.
He was really interested in, let's move on. We're still partners. Let's just move on. And he really did not want to spend much time on addressing the concerns of the community. So the meeting doesn't really go well. Later on, I find out that partially of why I was targeted by the FBI is because of what I said in that town hall meeting. I thought I was very polite. It's all on video. They said I was confrontational with the FBI. I remember there was a point when I spoke to him and he looked at me and he said, "Are you calling me a liar?" Which is very intimidating. And for somebody in his position, he shouldn't be talking to citizens this way.
Yeah.
And nobody was calling him a liar. He said, "Look, man, I just don't know how to reconcile what you're telling me versus a direct quote from your agent." And we gave him all different options, can you write to the register? So, well, there is a freedom of the press. Many times, newspapers would be willing to take a correction. Or can you put it on your website? Guys, you're spending too much time on this. Let's just move on. Let's see how we can become partners. And that's what he kept saying, despite our appeal to look, can you publicly say that? And he did. He looked us in the eye and he said, "We're not surveilling you. We're not keeping an eye on you. We're not spying on you."
So just to understand this, you saw a newspaper article that said you and your community are being watched, right? You saw that, and there's a town hall meeting, and you're sitting with the FBI chief. You say, "Hey, you guys are spying on me." He says, "No, I'm not."
Not on me, on us,
on
the
us,
community.
right? And he says, "No, I'm not." And then you say, "But this is what I saw." And then he says, "You're calling me a liar."
Exactly.
That's hilarious. And then you press him, and they don't like that, and so all of a sudden, he's on your trail.
That's what the FBI informant later on said. He was specifically saying that the FBI was really upset because somehow, I think the word that he used is I publicly, confronted them.
Wow, that's hilarious. Yeah. So what did they do? They started. Did you see some blacked out SUV following you around? What happened?
So what happened is that the FBI had hired an informant to come and spy on our community, an ex-felon pretending to be a Muslim. He came to the community, took the Shahada, and we gave him the 3 hugs, welcomed him to Islam, gave him a lot of business cards, took phone numbers, gave him phone numbers, invited him to our homes. And this is how the community, welcomes people. And that's what happened. So for 11 months, this guy lives in our midst, visits our homes. And you know how it is. We believe that when people convert and come back to Islam, sometimes that happens at the expense of some of the social support that they potentially lose. So we want to make sure that we fill that potentially lost social support that they have had. And what we do is, you welcome the person. Come on over for dinner. Let's have lunch with my family. Let's, invite you for breakfast. I'll teach you how to make salah. I'll teach you how to read Quran. Join the Arabic class. Why don't you come to the new Muslim group? We work out. Why don't you come and run with us? Come and work out with us. And that's how he was received in the community. And what he was doing is he was profiling the community. He wasn't even spying on specific individuals. As he told us, he would take a camera, come into the parking lot, take pictures of all the license plate numbers that are on the lot. He would pretend to be greeting community members as they come into the masjid, only to find out that there was a camera somehow in his shirt and he was taking pictures of the people who come in.
Mm-hmm.
He had what looked like a keychain or an alarm, and he would be recording conversations of people. Pretend like he left his keys behind, and the keys will be put in the imam's office until somebody claims them, only to find out later on that he was actually recording conversations that take place in the imam's office.
Wow.
You can imagine, I'm listening to this, I'm hearing this, and I'm saying, no. I'm a therapist. I take my job very serious. And the most important thing that we do in therapy is we want to make sure that our clients feel safe, that our clients are accepted. We give them unconditional positive regard. We don't judge them, and we promise them confidentiality. Because in counseling sessions, when people come in, they would be sharing some very, very intimate details of their lives with you because they trust you. And sometimes these details can be compromising and potentially embarrassing, potentially socially unacceptable, but they feel that this is a safe setting where they can just put that facade and just be. And to find out that somebody was potentially recording these conversations, potentially later on, be using it against these people, to me that was like a big, huge offense to find out that this is what the FBI was doing.
No, yeah, for sure. But my question is like, what did you guys do about that? You found out he was recording you. Well, how long first was it?
So he was in the community for 11 months.
Okay, so about a year you're being watched, recorded, conversations that were personal sometimes. What did you guys do about this when you found out?
Well, what he was doing is that he was actually going around asking a lot of questions about jihad. Like he was really interested in violence and jihad. Asking questions about, I've got access to stuff. And like when people felt this way, say, wait. This is not how we do things in our community. That's unacceptable. And people try to explain to him, the whole what our beliefs regarding jihad is. And it got to a point where people were really, really feeling uncomfortable. And I remember one particular conversation. This brother calls me on the phone and he said, look, this guy, Craig Montiel, has been asking me about jihad and he's been saying this and that. And I remember on the phone I said to him, I said, look, this guy is either stupid or he's trying to get you in trouble. In either cases, you need to stay away from him. Later on, Craig Montiel said that the FBI was listening live to that conversation.
Wow.
And they called him and they said, you need to bring this conversation to an end. Fazaga and this guy, they're having a conversation. You call that guy and you need to bring this conversation to an end. And I remember as I was talking to him, he said, Sheikh, he's calling me right now. I said, brother, you need to stay away from him. He is either stupid or he's trying to get you in trouble. And he did this with several members of our community. And we felt very uncomfortable. So we called the FBI. We, the Muslim community, called the FBI and we said, look, we believe we have a terrorist amongst our midst. FBI, the same guy that attended the meeting, is now receiving a call by Hussam Ailouche from CARE. Mr. Tirwell, we believe we have a terrorist in our midst. Oh, please tell me. Well, he's a convert, a white male. You know what? Why don't you just call the local police department?
Wow.
Hey, Stephen, you didn't even ask for the name. You know what? Just call the local police department. You don't want any more information about this guy? Just call the local police department. We called the local police department. Local police department asked, well, has he done anything? No, we're just waiting for him to do stuff so that we arrest him after he does what he wants.
Yeah.
And we ended up, having a restraining order against him. He was very upset. He leaves. We don't see him for another year. After a year, he comes on TV. There is a press conference, breaking news. Craig Montiel saying, I am not a Muslim. I was never a Muslim. I am an informant. Been working for the FBI. My job was to spy on the Muslim community, and he spills the beans. I mean, he spills the beans. He speaks about who his handlers were, gave us the name, not to us, but he gave the names of the FBI agents, referred to as his handlers, what his mission was, how much he was getting paid. He was getting paid $11,000 a month.
That's a solid. That's a
That's
solid.
a lot
right
of
there.
money. That's
Yeah.
that's good money.
Yeah.
What did he do? Pray 5 times a day, visit different masajid here and there. He would speak about how they told him to rub his forehead to appear more devout, had people teaching him Arabic, changed the name. And he just had a story. And that's when we said, wait a minute, this is like around the same time that we had that town hall meeting when the FBI reassured us that they were not surveilling our community, they were not spying on our community. They're liars.
Yeah, for sure.
2 years go by. The FBI is not denying it. The FBI is not admitting it. But this guy is saying, look, this is really what I did. And he is telling us that this is what's going on. So finally, there was a case in the community. It was like some immigration case. And the FBI had information, and they said that they got the information through their informant, Craig Montiel. And that's how the connection was made. So for the first time, the FBI admitted that Craig Montiel was working for them. And that's when we decided we need to file a lawsuit against the FBI for religious discrimination.
So before we dig into the lawsuit, is there a reason why that he went public with this information? Because that's self-incriminating, right? Like because he's sworn to secrecy when you join the FBI. You sign off on some rights.
That's a good question. So it turned out that he had a suspended sentence. I think it was some either fraud or drug possession. I really don't remember. It was supposed to be 11 months long, and the FBI said, look, if you do this for us, you don't have to worry about the sentence. And now that his cover has been blown, they just take him and put him in jail. Because in jail, by the way, he was also a snitch for the police. So now they take him, and he is in jail now for 11 months.
Wait, can you step back? So he was working with the FBI because he wanted his sentence reduced?
While he was in jail, he was working as a snitch. He was snitching. He was spying on the prisoners while in prison. FBI saw him and they said, look, we've got something big for you because you look Middle Eastern and we believe that we might have a mission for you. Mm-hmm. And he got excited. And he said, yeah, I will do it. But he had a sentence of 11 months for, I believe, like I said, it's either fraud or, I think it was fraud, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, so he's spying on the Muslim community to commute his sentence for whatever.
That was his hopes, yes.
Okay.
When his cover was blown, he was just taken and put in jail to serve his sentence of 11 months.
And his cover was blown because of what? Because he went out and said, I'm a spy.
No, well, what happened is that, he did say that after he came out of jail. But prior to this, the Muslim community put a restraining order on him. So he was useless.
Okay. So
he couldn't come to the masjid anymore.
Right. So because he wasn't effective to the FBI, they just put him back in prison.
Exactly.
Okay. And then in prison, he comes out of prison and then he says, hey, I was an FBI, or I was an agent for the FBI.
An informant.
An informant.
He was not an agent. He was an informant for the FBI.
Okay. So that's probably because he was mad.
Oh, yeah.
About the fact that he had to go back in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay. So now you're fighting the FBI in court. What's your status there?
So we filed a lawsuit, religious discrimination. I think we had like about 11 different points. So initially, you've got to remember this case is 15 years old.
Wow.
This is back in 2006. We're 2022 now. Mm-hmm. So it's 15 years later. And what's happened is, so the first court that we took the case to, they dismissed the court under, national security. They said, yeah, what happened to you is too bad, but, national security necessitates that we don't tell you what's going on, but we're going to dismiss the case. Well, that was not good, so we filed an appeal. The appeals court looked at our case and they said, no, the court was wrong. They shouldn't have dismissed your case like that. You guys have a case and your case needs to be heard. FBI did not like the outcome from the appeals court and they decided, nope, we want the Supreme Court to take a look at this case. Supreme Court now took a look at the case. We just had the arguments back in November of 2021 and we're waiting for them. So this process took 15 years for us to get here.
To get it escalated to the Supreme Court.
15 years.
Wow. So right now, what do you think the wait is going to be to get them to look at this case?
We don't know. I mean, the whole case is hanging on 1806. That's a provision, 1806 A, B, C, D, and F. And if you got a chance to hear the argument between the lawyers and our lawyers, very grateful for them, by the way. The FBI and the ACLU and CARE, they've been really, really champions in this case. And there was no way for us to be where we are had we not received the support from CARE and the ACLU. So, the whole thing is really about how do you interpret that part of the law. So we don't know how the Supreme Court is going to go with this case, but for the cases that they heard in November, they have until June to make a decision. They can either ask for what is that called? Extension. And Allahu A'lam, most likely they will send it to the appeals court to flush it out more. We honestly don't know.
I hear you. So inshallah khair.
But you also have got to remember that our case is maybe, this is the case that received a lot of attention, and we're glad that it did. And we're hoping that our story, this is just not my story. This is the story of many people out there.
Yeah.
My story, I'm still out, alhamdulillah, and I hope and I pray I remain out. But many people, based on this practice where the government sends informants, a lot of people have lost families, got deported, put in jail, lost businesses. A lot of people have gone literally mad. I'm talking about like literally crazy. I have had clients who developed permanent paranoia because of visits that they've received from the FBI. And it really is a very, these are really, really sad stories. And we're hoping to bring them to light.
I mean, I was actually gonna say that this is replicated across America for Muslim communities. They always send some sort of FBI informant, some sort of guy with a recording device that tries to find you with some sort of compromising information. Like you say something, a slip of the tongue maybe, or they might find someone that's weak or vulnerable or mentally ill, get them to say something, and then that person ends up in jail. There was a person in our community. He was actually a Syrian refugee. And they sent an FBI informant to our community. And she was this lady. She was a white convert. Same thing. But she went deep undercover. I read a couple of FBI books. It's really fun to read. But they have this situation where it's deep cover, where it's actually you go in, you immerse yourself in the environment. So she married into the community, and she lived within the community. She made all the salahs in the community. Like she was deep in the community. She was embedded, and she. After a period of a few months, I think it was 3 or 4 months, she started to, whenever she was alone with the Syrian refugee, like driving him to his house or something, she would show him like a video clip of ISIS. And she would say, "Oh, these are my people. I love these people." And I'm sure she had a recording device under her jilbab, And then as soon as he said something, that would be it. But we ended up hearing about it, and then she disappeared after just like a year of being in the community. But my question to you is, it's definitely not a new situation. It's been happening all over America. And it's started with like 9/11 era. Why do you think it is that they find us as a target that we can, put towards the, like they basically, they take Muslims, right? And they battle them in the courts and whatnot, and they make them out to be anti-American, anti this country, Sharia law. Like our end goal is Sharia. Do you think this situation would ever change, and what would it take to change it?
Well, historically speaking, the United States has always needed an enemy. And the enemy, at one point, it was the Native Americans, maybe it was the Chinese, maybe it was the Japanese, it was the Chinese, it was the communists, it was the Muslims. So what you do is that you're just constantly, there is a need to have an enemy. An enemy that will justify all kinds of laws, regulations, wars, you just name it. I mean, it's really sad. What people don't understand is, and getting into politics here, but look into the economy here is 80% services, 4% agriculture, 16%, industrial, and mostly it is armaments and heavy, war equipment. So peace is not good for the economy. So you constantly have got to continue that, to use the words of Henry Kissinger addressing a group of U.S. diplomats. He said that your job is not to resolve not the situation, what is that
Conflict?
called? He said your job is not to resolve the conflict. Your job is to manage the conflict.
Oh, wow.
So you don't resolve conflicts because peace is not good for business. So what do? Manage the conflict. Make sure that nobody gets the upper hand because they will crush. So what you do is you manage the conflict. And there's just this been need to have an enemy to direct, to divert, and to distract the people from real issues. And at this point, it is the Muslims. So it is either war on drugs, war on terror, war on this, war on that. You just name it. But just going back to what you were saying earlier about how the FBI operates, I remember in my capacity as an imam, I would get phone calls from people, and I knew, I'd be talking on this, I had somebody calling me up saying, Sheikh, I have money to donate. I don't want to give it to the people, to the real people. I said, what do you mean, the real people? Come on, Sheikh, you know the people. I said, no, I don't. What do you mean? He said, I have money I want to donate, Sheikh. What do you recommend? I said, well, do you want to donate it locally or internationally? He goes, why don't you give me both? I said, locally, you give it to this organization. They help people here locally. Internationally, you give it to Islamic Relief. He goes, no, Sheikh, I want to give it to the people, Sheikh, who are going to put it into good use. Sheikh, I'm willing to take the money myself.
Wow.
When people talk like this over the phone, these are not people who are charitable. These are not people. These are people who are trying to use you potentially to get a green card, get out of trouble. Maybe they're working for the FBI, but these are not genuine questions. Talking about the FBI, it's not even the slip of a tongue. We have heard cases about the FBI asking people if they're naturalized. English is not many people, English is not their first language. I don't know what naturalized means, but I know what natural is.
Yeah.
So, naturalized, you say yes. Naturalized means, are you a U.S. citizen? The guy was not. But he knew what the word natural meant, so he said yes. Well, that's lying to an FBI agent, a federal agent.
Wow.
That gets you 6 years in jail.
Wow, what a game.
Exactly.
That's
at that point, when you're
ridiculous.
confronted with this, we can overlook that if you do 1, 2, and 3. One of the things that Claremont said, he said that the FBI is mainly 80% white males.
Right.
And he said that for these things, it would be best if you can have somebody from within the community to spy on the community. Well, how do you get them to do that? What you need to do is that you need to find soft, spots about them. Person who's having an affair, the person who is cheating on their taxes, the person who is, questioning their sexual orientation, the person who is doing some illegal financial transactions. You find out this information, use it against them, coerce them, compel them, blackmail them in order to do things,
right.
That they normally they would not want to do,
right.
but they would do it now that you have this information on them. And that's why I tell people, I said, look, 2 wrongs don't make a right. If your taxes are not set straight, working for the FBI won't make that right. Or, if they find out information about you, we know that you have a second wife. No, I actually have 3 wives, and it's none of your business who I choose to marry or not marry. That is none of your business, why I do these things or why I don't do these things. So I tell people, look, we all have skeletons in our closets. We all have our demons that we are fighting. And that's where it's very important to our community that you've got, this is not, a'udhu billah, to justify sin, but remember, the only time that we are allowed to look down upon a man is only if we're trying to help them get up. But you don't wait for people, to go down and then be kicking them when they are down. Yeah, some of us out there are addicts. Some of us out there do stuff that we shouldn't be involved in. And we want to belong to a community to help us get out of that, not feel so pressured that we have to give in to this coercion that's taken place by the FBI.
I hear you. Yeah, no, it's funny because they use these really ridiculous, tactics to supposedly find, crime. But like my question is like, why don't they just straight up ask like, hey, Imam, if you see something, say something.
We did.
Right. No. But what I'm saying is the FBI doesn't do that. They prefer to go covert, and there's almost not even a need to go covert. You could just go direct to the source. But I feel like they do it on purpose because not only do they not trust us as a community, but they want to find something that probably isn't there.
And if they don't find it, they create it.
Right.
And here's the thing. If you see something, say something. In our case, we did. We saw how this guy was talking, alluding to violence. We did the right thing.
Yeah.
We called the FBI. They did a documentary on our case, and I think it was aired on Al Jazeera, and they had many different cases, as like to the type of tactics that the FBI used in order to get people in trouble. I mean, it's like really like entrapment in ways that are just evil, like literally evil. After which the FBI is hailed as heroes because they foiled a plan.
Yeah.
There was no plan. You made that plan.
Right. They built it. They set it up for the person.
Literally.
Yeah.
Entrapping people left and right, just just seeing them get into trouble and then, we got you. Even though we're the ones that told you about it.
Yeah. There's a great article. I think it was I read it on history.com, but they wrote a great article about the blind Sheikh, Omar Abdurrahman, who was like, indicted for he tried to do he either did or tried to do the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. And there was an Egyptian informant that they were working with to, get into his inner circle. And they foiled it and whatnot, but they were talking about how, what do you think the best way, the interviewer was talking to the Muslim informant. They said, what do you think the best way is to reconcile between your community and the FBI? And he was doing, in his instance, it was a pretty good job because this was a sheikh that clearly was a terrorist, and he was actually brought in by the FBI. He was internationally known as a terrorist because he committed some sort of bombing in Egypt, and he wasn't allowed into the United States. But the FBI smuggled him in, or the CIA smuggled him in through Sudan for whatever reason. Some people say it's because they wanted him to promote the war in Afghanistan. It was 1990, but that's just speculation. But he was in the country, and this guy was talking about the whole situation, and he said the best way for the FBI to reconcile with my community is for them to go direct to the source and melt the icy wall that they've built between us. And I read that and I was like, he's exactly right. They don't work with us, they work against us. They choose covert operation over asking, hey, is there a terrorist in your community? You know what I mean? And I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Are you aware of the whole case for?
I am. Yes,
Yeah.
I am. And I do know about that informant who was like doing the translation and the transportation for the sheikh. I've seen many documentaries and articles about that case. See, the FBI is not interested in this. Okay, because and it's really unfortunate. They have this rap song back in the 1980s when rap was real art that spoke about the I guess the concerns of the people, police brutality. And there was one particular line that said, you addressing the police, the artist says, you protect us from the criminals, but who's going to protect us from you? And this is what you have literally. It's like, okay, so we go to the FBI when we recognize the criminals. But where do we go when the people who are questioned are the FBI themselves? What you proposed assumes that the FBI is genuinely looking for terrorists.
Right.
I really don't think that's the case. I think what the FBI has done, what the previous administrations have done, is that they have created a narrative. They need to continuously justify that narrative. Like just recently, as a US president, if your popularity goes down, what do?
Have an enemy?
You've got to bomb somewhere.
Yeah.
Biden's popularity went down, and what did he do? Or he did just announce that, you know what? Oh, we just killed the head of ISIS. I think that's
Oh.
like been the 20th time now they've killed the head of ISIS.
Right,
Because
yeah.
we really don't know how many heads they have. But that's just been the go-to solution. Your popularity goes down, you've got to bomb some people. And that's what they've been doing. That's how it's been. That's how you get your popularity.
Do you think it's a good idea for Muslims to join the intelligence apparatus, FBI, CIA, NSA, to maybe do a reform from within? If you think it's possible.
Look, it's always good to have a seat on the table. But if you are not trusted, then that seat that you have is useless. So at this point, I think before we have a seat on that table, I think that the FBI needs to rectify the situation. At this point, we don't trust the FBI.
So what's the way forward then?
Well, an acknowledgement that the Muslim community, there was an article by an ex-FBI agent who's been leaking classified information for the past 3 years to write an article. This happened in Minnesota. And the title of the article was, I have helped, Oberry, I think is the name of the agent. He spent 3 years in jail for this. He said that what he has done as, he said that I've helped destroy people's lives. He would speak about all these cases that the FBI has had, all the informants that they've hired. And he said, you know what? Once they have your name somewhere, he said, literally your life is ruined. Okay? And he said that what he did, and he's remorseful, he said that I have helped ruin people's lives.
Yeah.
And it was a very gutsy article, but this is somebody from within who's saying like, look, whatever it is that we're doing to the Muslim community is not good. So I think an acknowledgement would be a good place to start, because that's when you're saying like, look, we've done this the wrong way, and even then I think it'll take time, because the most important, like this is what we call like basic human sociology, the ABCs of sociology. If people don't know you, people won't trust you. If people don't trust you, people won't accept you. If people don't know you, don't trust you, don't accept you, people won't love you. And at this point, there is no trust. The most important element in any healthy human relationship is trust. There is no trust at this point.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, it's freezing cold in here. I don't know if it's cold for you, but
it's very cold.
I was going to say, what's your take on Muhammad Salihi, I think is his name. He's the Mauritanian that was sent to Guantanamo. He was innocent from the get-go, but what started it off was a phone call from his cousin, who was actually part of like Al-Qaeda or something. And it was literally, he had nothing to do with it. He just received that phone call and he became a suspect of interest. But they wouldn't leave him alone. Like they did what you said, like they were building a case. They had no case to begin with, but they held him for so many years. Have you seen his story?
I have not seen his story, but something similar has happened to me.
Yeah, you have the story.
This idea of receiving a phone call.
Yeah.
I remember I was in Canada. I don't remember where, Toronto, Edmonton. I honestly don't remember. And every time I would go to Canada, I would just like be held for like hours, like literally hours. It used to be very bad early on. Alhamdulillah, it's getting better now. And I remember one time I was just like really frustrated. And I said to the agent, I said, look, man, what is this, man? It just happens every time I come in here. He looked around and he goes, let's take a walk. Like literally that's what he did. He said, let's take a walk. And he's like, I'm done now. You know, it's giving me my passport back and I'm going back in. He goes, let's take a walk. And, the hallway, he looks at me and goes, you have a very bad number on your contact list, or you received a phone call from a really bad number. I'm saying, yeah, like my number is very public, and by virtue of what I do, I get a lot of phone calls, I get a lot of invitations, but that's really what happened. A cousin of mine got in trouble because of this, because somebody traveled from the Sudan. And when you're going from the Sudan, you go, oh yeah, I have a cousin in America. Here, give him a call. He will help you. And he receives a call again from somebody that was on some watch list. But then my cousin was in constant contact with me. So now they're supposedly building a web of, a sleeping cell, and because of a phone call that you've received. But that's, then we are all in trouble. Like, I don't know how many WhatsApp messages you get, how many WhatsApp groups you get
Right,
added
exactly.
to. And many times I find myself in groups with people that I don't know, and somebody feels that your presence in this group is helpful, or you might find the information in this group useful. And like literally, I get added to groups. I have no idea who the person that added me or the people on that group. I have no clue what's going on.
What do you think it takes to get you out of being in suspicion or under suspicion? Do you need like an American flag in your front yard? Do you need to sign up for your local, military reserve? What's the solution when you're under suspicion?
And the sad part is, why are you under suspicion to begin with?
Yeah, exactly.
Because remember that being on the defensive is the weakest position to be in, regardless of how good your arguments are, because it's always up to somebody else's discretion whether you're good or not. You're always waiting for somebody else to pass that judgment on you. Now, legally, you're not supposed to be a suspect to begin with.
Yeah.
And what has happened is, after 9/11, if you are a Muslim male between the ages of 16 and 60, by default, you are a suspect. And that is just all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. So if I have a flag in my front yard, that doesn't help, maybe?
No, I really don't think. I mean, I've seen a lot of hijabis, they would be wearing, the American flag as a headscarf.
Oh, yeah.
They would be doing that. That did not stop people from, I guess, abusing them.
Yeah, that's crazy. So going forward, like, what do you think your advice would be for people that they don't want to fall under suspicion, especially from within our community, or they think that they may be being watched right now? What do you think the case is there?
Oh, number one is always remember, make use of the resources in the community. I love CARE, man. I absolutely love CARE, and I love what CARE is doing. Call your local CARE chapter. Let them know what's going on. Number two, do not talk to the FBI. And I really, really mean this. Do not talk to the FBI by yourself. Be cooperative, be cordial, be civil, be nice, be very firm, be very assertive. Legally, you do not need to respond to the FBI. If they want to talk to you, sure, let's go to the CARE office. I want a lawyer present as we do this. It doesn't matter how nice, hostile the agent is. Just remember, do not talk to the FBI.
What if it's like a basic question, though?
Or as I have been saying, the less you talk, the more you walk.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember we had training. Okay. How to talk to the FBI. Do you have the time?
What's? Okay. You want to just tell us when to stop?
See, that was supposed to be a question.
Okay.
That was just supposed to be part of the training. Okay. So do you have the time? And what did you say?
Oh.
you just volunteered information.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, I was going to say about the FBI in particular, like if they ask me a basic question, like for example, if I'm at my house and two guys show up and they're like, "Hey, I'm Johnny from the FBI." I'm like, "What's up, Johnny?" And he'll say, "Hey, do you know of this terrorist case?" I'm like, "No, I got no idea." Is that okay to do?
Nope. You remember, the FBI is not your friend. Okay? Just take that in. The FBI is not your friend. If you are a Muslim male, the FBI is not your friend. So what you do is, look, I would love to talk to you when my lawyer is present. There is a reason why people say this. Because see, now, Johnny, the agent, may be really nice, and they may really, really be interested in a very basic question, but you know what? I don't know which one to trust at this point. So I'd rather play it safe. And I would rather say, Johnny, I would love to answer your questions, not right here, but let's just do. For all the people, almost 100% of the people that were visited by the FBI, They said, let me have your card and I'll have my lawyer contact you. Almost 100% of the people never heard back from that agent.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
So why would you not want to talk to my lawyer? What is it about the presence of the lawyer that makes the conversation no longer welcomed?
Right.
Okay. So that will be number 2. Number 3, do not live in fear. Okay. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, with the listeners out there. I remember when the case came out and we found out that, we've been spied on. I find out that the FBI is listening live to my phone conversations. I would leave to come to the masjid for Fajr. And then I would, I would leave and then make a U-turn, come back and check out if there is a car, waiting.
Yeah.
Because we've been told that, the FBI likes to ambush people's homes when they leave after Fajr. I'd make a U-turn and say, man, this is just too crazy. You can't live life like this. I'm not going to be building prisons, around my life. So do not live in fear.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, personally, I don't feel scared as a, second generation Muslim in America. I don't feel scared at all, but I feel actually like almost like feeling like if they pulled up on me, I'd kind of want them to, just cuz like I want to say like, "Hey buddy, I got nothing to hide." But I hear what you're saying in terms of them building a case against you.
But see, now you're pointing out something here. And that is the second generations versus the immigrants.
Yeah.
You've got to remember, see, we immigrants, where we came from, being visited by secret services, that will be like the equivalent of the FBI, is like some very, very scary business.
Right.
Like that's a really, really scary business. You never want to be visited by the secret services.
Yeah.
So the way that we immigrants react is, oh my God, let's be polite. Oh, let's just answer all the questions.
Right.
Let's just accommodate. Let's just, because we are afraid that if we don't do that, something bad is going to happen to us. Okay? So you've got to remember that this is a strategy that maybe got us out of trouble when you live under dictatorships, but supposedly living in a democracy, that is not how you survive.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that a good number of us immigrants, refugees, have not made that shift. It's like, we're just happy to be here. Please don't do anything to us. We'll do whatever you guys want us to do.
Yeah.
And just let us be. Okay. And also in sociology, there are, about the belongers and the owners of the culture. See the way that you just speak, the way that you talk, the accent that you have. You are an owner of the culture. People like myself, we are belongers to the culture, because the minute I open my mouth, people would say, "Where are you from?" Yeah, you're not one of us. Where are you from? And that's not necessary. I'm not offended by that question because I'm not from here. Okay. People would just recognize my accent. And I must point out that it's a cute accent, mashallah. So that is what happens. So we are belongers to the culture. So the belongers always feel that they are at the mercy of the owners. They get to decide when they're in, when they're out, when they can stay, when they can leave. So the belongers are constantly very sensitive about not wanting to offend the owners, because they're just happy to be here.
Right.
And that's how we've been behaving.
I hear you. Yeah, no, it's definitely not something that I grew up with, not in terms of me and my friends. I mean, I've seen, cases of undercover agents and whatnot that I found out later. Actually, my first experience with one, I learned about it when I was older, but apparently there was an agent in our community named Sheikh Saeed who used to teach my Quran class when I was 6 years old, which was probably like 2005 or 4. So, but he was an agent for the FBI. And
the sheikh was?
Yeah, he was an Egyptian sheikh. And I was told by our current sheikh when I was older that actually that person that was teaching you Quran, he was only hanging around because he wanted to secretly record us, and he took pictures of my office, which is ridiculous because, like, I don't know what you're going to find. There's nothing there, so they just wasted their money on a salary for you. But Yeah, it was nothing special. It was just there was just an old guy around that was new that was teaching us Quran.
And see what you just said right there. Remember, see when there is a when you say suspecting somebody of drug smuggling,
Yeah.
drug activities, you're very specific. It's like this guy, we need to keep an eye on this guy, and we're particularly interested in 1, 2, and 3. That is surveillance. That's targeted surveillance.
Yeah.
In our case, it's just profiling the community. Let's take
Right.
a picture of his office. For what purpose? Oh, let's listen into the phone conversation. Let's take pictures of people who come to the masjid. Let's take pictures of the license plates of the people who drive to the masjid. That is profiling. And at
Yeah.
that point, the entire community is being profiled. That's like Soviet Union style.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like dictator style.
Exactly. And it's only happening to, I think it's only happening to us. I mean, we haven't gotten rounded up and put in concentration camps like the Japanese had, or internment camps. But do you think we're headed that way? Do you think that's our trajectory?
I hope not. You know, if you asked Japanese people back then if that's where it was heading, they would probably say no. But, you know, in terms of human behavior, people are not looking for the complex, complicated answers. People are just looking for simple answers. The Muslims are the problems. It's like Hitler. The Jews are the problems. The communists are the problems. The Japs are the problems. You know, the masses are looking for this type of an approach to the solution of their problems. And if you give this to the masses, unfortunately, the masses respond positively to that kind of messaging.
Yeah, for sure. Just one last thing, and then we can close for Isha. How do we, because we touched on it, but we haven't really answered the question, but how do we come out of this? What's the way forward from the situation? Because it's getting better, I think, because China is a rising power, and it's challenging global U.S. hegemony. So I think we're kind of being shifted away, thankfully, from being the target to China being the target. But how do you think we come in, not only just, you know, is the light's not being shined on us anymore, but how do we play an active role in being a part of society?
Look, to me, it's what they call in sociology, it's the surest, but also the slowest process. When people know you, people trust you. When people trust you, people accept you. I don't think that we have done this at the absolute grassroots level. Ignorance breeds fear. People don't know us. People have ideas about us, very negative ideas about us. And I think if we start at that level, people will be able to relate to us. Relatability is not there at this point. And, you know, I really don't think that it's at the policy level. I believe that, you know, it's not either or. Yeah, you do work at the policy level. I believe you do work. You have a seat on the table. But I also believe that we need to do a lot more outreach work to the masses of the people out there. And the best way to do this is to get socially involved. Not just political involvement. I'm talking about like social involvement. Like, let our presence be an asset to whatever community it is that we go there. You know, I love the fact that I know for a while the MSA at UC Irvine, which was part of, you know, believe the surveillance that was there. You know, it was the most active campus in terms of it was the club that donated most blood to the blood bank.
Mashallah.
That's very telling.
Yeah.
It was the club that donated most money to the victims of the earthquake in Haiti, for example.
Mashallah, wow.
It is the club that, and at that point, you know, look, man, this is not just about PR. This is about a group of kids who not only talk the talk, but they also walk the walk.
Right.
And I think that type of involvement, it speaks volumes, you know. And that's why when, you know, Americans who feel comfortable around Muslims, all of the people who felt comfortable around Muslims are people who say, I have a Muslim friend, I have a Muslim neighbor, I have a Muslim coworker. Because literally, ignorance breeds fear.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just one issue with that is that we're so few in number. You know, we can't have that much outreach to people in the Midwest or deep parts of the South, or, you know what I mean? Like,
did you see the funeral of Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's awesome.
Did you see what one man did? Man, I was just watching that funeral. I was crying like a baby, man. Like when you have got people chanting under Ali, Ali, like millions upon millions of people watching the funeral. Like this is the Muslim guy, Muhammad Ali, who chose to speak against the government, who chose to change his name, who chose to change his religion. But there was that thing about Muhammad Ali. You know, may Allah bless his soul.
I mean,
You know, and I'm saying that maybe we are few in numbers, but so is the Jewish community.
oh right, yeah.
Okay, and to me that is a challenge. It doesn't make it impossible, but I would say that it can be overcome, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. We'll go ahead and close for now, and we'll stop for Isha and maybe do another one. I appreciate your time, Sheikh.
No.
Jazakallah khair. Good God, it's cold.
It is very cold.
Yeah, well, I'm like.